bunch of little clips and parts and pieces of the headache it was to put a Helix on a Temple Audio pedal board. But it would be like a 2-hour video because the thing took almost a week to put together. So I'm just going to give you a short version of the things you should know about if you're going to mount anything besides a standard guitar pedal on one of these Temples. So first we'll talk about some of the good stuff, like my Cat 5 cable that goes over here to my sweet Line 6 Variax guitar. Can plug right into the side now instead of right in the middle of the Helix and where it comes over, and I got cables hanging over my pedal board and it's just a mess. All my XLRs are now coming out of the side, even my L6 link that goes to my Line 6 DT amplifier over here. L6 link cable can come right out of the side of the board. All my, I got a little patch bay right here coming out of the side of the board for, you know, my effects loops for my amp and any other thing. One of these is actually the amp control to switch channels on my amplifier. But anyways, so what I wanted to point out is, number one, these huge screws right here. If you want to mount anything to the bottom of the board, they give you these huge screws that come up and take up real estate on the top of your board. So number one thing they need to do is find a flush mount screw that you can actually set pedals over, and then you can use the full bottom and full top of the board. Like, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to flip this over. I was able to get a few pedals down here, but I couldn't put anything under the Helix because these big old screws wouldn't allow my Helix to sit over them. So they need to come up with a pretty much flush mount screw that sits the same height or lower than their mounting plates that you get. The fancy mounting plates that you stick to your pedal and mount things to the board with. So the other thing, kind of cheesy thing I had to do, because I didn't want to take up real estate on the top of my board with those screws, I just kind of wedged my power supply underneath this support bracket. It's just wedged there. It's wedged really good. There's a screw here and a screw here. It's not going to go anywhere, but it is kind of freaking cheesy. The other thing you need to be aware of, I had to cut out all these front holes all across here to be bigger, to allow XLR cables and power cables to come through. So I had to cut all these out bigger. And another thing that kind of pissed me off and was a pain in the ass was, you know, on their modules. Like, I got a Cat 5 module, I got a USB module, I got this 1/4-inch patch bay over here. And on most of them, you know, you plug things into the front, and whatever you want routed into it, you just plug it into the back, nice and easy. The XLRs, however, I had to cut my XLR cables and solder all these XLR connections. There was 4 of them. I mean, not a huge deal, but if you're not that kind of a handy guy, or not a patient guy, then that sucks. That sucks. That was a sucky thing to have to do. So Temple, come up with couplers like you did on everything else for your XLRs. But I understand to do that, you're going to have to make these holes up here bigger. Because in reality, you know, the way you got it set up, yeah, we can cut our XLR cables and run them through these holes. Okay, fine. But a lot of people aren't going to want to solder things. And I would have had to cut my power cable going to my Helix and then splice in some cheesy, you know, hardware store plug-in onto the end and hope that I didn't leave a fray wire and burn up my $1,500 Helix because I had to cut a power cable to get it through your board. So that's another fix you guys need to do. Third and final fix, because everything else is great. Third and final fix is only skinny patch cables will fit through these little holes. Like, this is a George LS, and I know you guys recommend using lavas because they're skinnier and you can get them through these little holes. But I already had a whole monster cable kit, and they wouldn't go through these smaller holes. They all had to be routed through these bigger holes, which aren't big enough. So the little holes need to be a little bit bigger to fit a standard size instrument cable. And all these oval shaped holes, they need to be bigger as well, at least at the front, at least the front ones, to get XLR cables through. I couldn't even get a MIDI cable through one of your standard size holes. So these need to be bigger. Other than that, awesome design. The board's light. You got all these modules. I got a power switch now. I got a mic input. I got left and right XLR outputs. I got a AES EBU output. I got a USB output. I got a Cat 5 output. Brilliant. The handles are brilliant. I was using a 43-inch by, I think, 15.5-inch board to fit all this stuff on it. And I was able to get the same amount of stuff on this 34 by 12.5-inch board. So other than those few little things, good job, guys. And yeah, if anybody has any questions or comments, put it down there in the, in the comments section, and I'll get back to you. All right, bye.